Home births are on the rise, but the question is, are they safe? And then the second question is, are they the right decision for you and your family?
Good morning, guys. Good morning. It is 6:50 in the morning. My water broke about 6:40, maybe about 6:40. I've been having contractions since about maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and now it's 6 o'clock. I've been out of the bed since 5 just because the pain was just a lot.
So I'm going to pause there and first say, so this is actually an unassisted home birth, which to me is the highest possible risk. So it's not just that it's happening out of a medical setting, but it's also happening without medical professionals. And so you can actually kind of see that the baby is crowning at this point. And you can see she's getting ready for the final push. It seems like she is about to bring the baby out. And there it goes, the baby delivered. Goes straight to skin. And so this is the moment of truth to me. This is the scariest part where you want to hear the baby cry. Take some breaths. Mom goes skin to skin, has a towel. Hope for a little stimulation here. Try to wake the baby up, rub the back, rub the belly. She's doing a little bit. It's a little weak cry. There we go. Okay, now you hear a good cry. All right, so I'll just pause there. That is an example to me of as good as it gets. If you're gonna do a home birth, you want it to look like that. Could not be better. Once again, this was an unassisted home birth, so it's awesome that everything went according to plan and perfect. I do worry as a pediatrician, if something had gone wrong, if the baby wasn't taking a breath, needed resuscitation, what would the plan have been? But this is amazing, so I'm just so happy for the family. And now I wanna watch another video from a mom who had a different experience with home birth and see how that goes.
Our baby girl passed away after our planned home birth because of a shoulder dystocia.
So shoulder dystocia is basically where the baby's shoulder gets caught behind the mom's pubic bone, and it requires the OBGYN to tell mom to stop pushing and then do some specific maneuvers to try to get the baby out of the birth canal safely.
Birth, especially if you are a first-time mom, is to please interview midwives with so many questions. I feel like as a first-time mom, you're just particularly naive, honestly, specifically complications during labor and during pregnancy, complications and stuff like that. Also, the home birth community really hushes all the negative stories out there, but please just search and try to find some negative ones so you know the reality.
And I think this is a really important point, is it's awesome to see videos where things go well, but it's also important to hear videos where moms like this are speaking their truth about what happened so that people can make informed decisions.
For me, I had never really known much about shoulder dystocia before. I've never heard anyone in my life say that they had a shoulder dystocia during their labor. I don't think it's talked about enough. Asking your midwives a ton of questions and knowing that they have a game plan for things makes you feel more confident in them and just better prepares you. If something does happen to go wrong, you kind of know what to expect. You know what the person taking care of you should be doing. After losing my daughter, I know worst case scenario, and unfortunately those kind of things do happen and nobody talks about them.
Okay, so obviously the second video is devastating and terrible to hear. It shocks me and saddens me to know that she had a provider with her who actually didn't talk through the risks, the benefits, what could happen and what's likely to happen. So my plan today is to do some of that for you. And then again, this is not medical advice, just general education. It's up to each person talking to their provider, whether it's a midwife, obstetrician, or otherwise, about what's best for you, your family, and your future baby. Okay, so the bottom line up front, what is the stance of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG? Well, basically they say, look, we acknowledge that the hospital is the safest place for babies to deliver, but we also acknowledge that every mother has the autonomy and the right to make a decision about where they want to deliver their child. And so if a mother chooses to deliver at home, that's okay, but they just emphasize that it needs to be a medically informed choice. So first, we talked about some of the spiritual, personal, family reasons why someone would want to deliver at home, but what about the medical benefits? So there are real benefits. If you want to avoid interventions, so if you want to avoid induction or augmentation, C-sections, epidurals, episiotomies, other operative vaginal deliveries. If you want to avoid those things, they are much less likely to happen if they occur at home compared to the hospital. Not only that, but mothers are less likely to suffer severe tears and fewer infectious complications. So these are real benefits. But what about the risks? So there is a real risk to the fetus or the newborn baby. Basically, perinatal death or death around the time of birth is a little bit more than twice as high if it happens at home compared to the hospital. And that's when we're comparing low-risk patients at home and low-risk patients in the hospital. At home, the risk of death is 1 to 2 per 1,000 births. That goes down to about 0.5 per 1,000 in the hospital. If you're looking just at low-risk births, then that's 1.3 per 1,000 deaths at home compared to about 0.4 per 1,000 deaths in the hospital. So what does this translate to? Well, it basically means that for every 1,000 babies born, if they're all born at home, then there would be an extra 1 or 2 babies who die because they were born at home rather than being born in the hospital. And remember, we're focusing on low-risk infants here. If you have a high-risk infant, which means they have malpresentation, they're multiple, so like twins, there's a prior C-section, then it's really not an option. We're talking about like 10 times the risk of death. And so ACOG really recommends this happen in the hospital, not at the home setting. Okay, so that's the risk of death, but note that there are other neonatal complications that can occur. So the risk of neurologic dysfunction or brain dysfunction or neonatal seizures, it's about 3 times higher at home compared to the hospital, about 0.4 to 0.6 per 1,000 births. A critical thing I want to note is that the country and the system really seems to matter here. So if you live in the UK, the Netherlands, Canada, those countries seem to have equivalent outcomes if they have home births or births in the hospital. And it's because they have nice integrated systems that aren't as disparate and disjointed as the United States. I do want to say if you're going with a home birth, I would strongly recommend having a medical professional present. There's 2 types that are commonly used at home, and one is a certified nurse midwife, and the other is a certified professional midwife. For me personally, a certified nurse midwife is who I would go with because there's a little bit of extra training, you know, they have a nursing background. That said, the data that I looked at, I couldn't actually find a statistical difference between certified nurse midwives and other providers at home. The last thing I want to say, whatever your plans are, if you try at home, just have realistic expectations. If you are nulliparous, so you haven't had a baby before, there is a 23 to 37% chance that even if you start to give birth at home, that you will require transfer to a hospital during labor for some reason. Not necessarily an emergent indication. Sometimes it's something like failure to progress, but this is quite common. It goes down a lot to like 5 or 10% for moms who have had multiple babies, but something to be aware of anyway. All right, so that's about it. I hope it was helpful. And as always, if you find this information helpful and you're willing to subscribe, leave a comment below or a like, it would go a long way. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.